Creating a long-running manga series is definitely not an easy feat, and there's a lot of aspects to take into consideration if you want to create a series that, one, readers will want to stay with for a long amount of time, and you as the author will also feel motivated to work on for that amount of time also. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can create a long-running series which can apply to creating mangas, comics, or even light novels. Before I get fully into this video, I just want to mention that if you are new to my channel, please consider hitting that little subscribe button because it really helps support me and my channel, and it also ensures that you never miss a new video. I upload new videos every week on how to create an amazing manga, and you really don't want to miss them. Now, first of all, I want you to think about if creating a long-running manga series is right for you. There are a lot of things to take into consideration when you are creating a long-running series, and one of the biggest aspects to think about is if you are dedicated enough to work on your book. By a long-running series, I mean a series of about 50 volumes or more, and that takes a lot of motivation to be able to create that many volumes for such a long amount of time. You really need to consider if this is the right choice for you at this time. You may find that you would do better by practicing with a shorter series first before you go on to creating a longer-running series. If you have decided that you would like to create a long-running manga series, let's talk a little bit more about how you can know if creating a long-running manga series is the right choice for you. So first of all, ensure your story has a plot that can be expanded upon. If your story has a lot of characters and a lot of really good world building, and you have a lot of plot ideas and a lot of other points in your story that can be expanded on, then your story would likely suit a longer running series. But if you find that you have a limited cast of characters and the world of your story is really set in a similar place and the plot doesn't have a lot that can really be expanded on, then creating a longer running series might not be right for you. So first of all, ensure that the plot of your story is something that can be expanded upon and drawn out into a longer running series. Also, consider if your genre works for a longer running series. The best genres for long running series are sci-fi and fantasy because these are aspects that have a lot of world building, which means there are plenty of room for the writers to expand on it. Other genres like shoujo or slice of life can be used, of course, but the reason why I'm asking you to consider the genre first and foremost is because choosing a genre with a lot more world building and opportunities for character development like fantasy may make it easier for you to write a longer running series than something like comedy where you might have to think of a lot of funny situations which might get more and more difficult over time. Now, if you've listened to all of these tips and you have decided that creating a longer series is the right choice for you, then here is how you can create a longer running manga, comic, or light novel story. My first tip is don't pants a longer series. Now, pantsing is a term in writing where the writer literally just writes from the seat of their pants basically. They just write whatever comes to mind, and this does work very well for some authors, and I've done it many times in my own writing where if I'm not really sure what to create in the next scene, I might just see where the story takes me and I'll just keep writing and see what happens next. And a lot of writers find this works really well for them. The problem with pantsing a longer series is that it can actually cause you to run into problems later on in the story. You may find that if you do not properly plan for a longer series, you may end up driving yourself into a corner in the story and being unsure of where to go next. You could also create plot holes where certain aspects of the plot no longer make sense because you may have forgotten about them and you did not effectively plan for them. You could also stray from the main plot and go on a completely different plot line, which is okay in some circumstances, but if you completely stray from a plot and go somewhere else, it might not be what your audience had in mind when they first picked up your book. So my recommendation to you is that if you are creating a longer running series, first create a basic plan that will make it easier for you to create it. In this way, you can help to avoid plot holes and avoid straying from the plot later on. Then from there, once you have a basic plan in place, if you do enjoy pantsing a story and just writing it as it goes along, you can go for that method after you do a basic plan. But the basic plan is there to protect you as the author and to ensure that you don't run into trouble later on, because if you don't plan, you may be opening yourself up for a lot of problems that may end up being very difficult to fix. Longer series need at least a little bit of planning in order for you to know as the author where you want to go next and help keep the story interesting from beginning to end. Now, my second tip is create a basic plot structure, and this is running from the previous tip, the previous information that we talked about in the previous step. I want to talk about in this tip how you can create a basic plot structure that will help you avoid running into problems as you are creating your longer running series. Now, I do have a video specifically on planning your manga, which you can check out right here. However, in this tip, I'm going to be more specifically using this planning information and talking about it in the context of writing a longer series. The basic plot of your manga should follow this basic structure. There should be a beginning, an inciting incident, a rising action, the climax of the story, the falling action, and the resolution. The beginning is where you introduce the characters and the world of your story. You help your readers to answer questions about when is the story set, where is the story set, and who are the main characters. You may also introduce your villain at this point, but that can also come later during the inciting incident. The exciting action is where the real action begins to happen in your story. It's when something happens that forces your characters into action. It's usually a bad problem that your character must solve, or a situation that really forces your character to do something about it. This is where the story begins to take form and your readers can get a basic idea of what might happen in the next steps. The rising action will be the longest part of your plot. In this part, it might go up and down, where there might be certain problems that force your character to slow down and think and solve them, and other parts where your character has successes and they solve the problems and they make movements towards fulfilling their goals. All of the information that happens in the rising action will help to lead your characters up to the climax of your story. The climax of the story is the biggest point of tension and drama, and this is usually where there might be a boss battle or a sudden realization or a really dramatic moment that really shifts the story. It is the most important part of your book, and all of the parts in the inciting incident and the rising action should be leading up to this moment of high tension and drama in your story. The falling action is what leads up to the resolution. It's where certain questions are answered and certain plot points are tied together to help make more sense. The resolution is the ending of your book, and it's where everything comes to a close and your book reaches an ending. You can find the planner for this information in the description below for free to download on my website. You're welcome to use this planner to plot out your story to help you understand where you want to go next in the story you are telling. As well as this basic plot structure, it's also very important that you answer these questions when you are writing your manga. First of all, who are the main characters? This is where you talk about your protagonists and your villains, your deuteragonists, or any other prominent characters in the world of your book. Who are the side characters? The side characters are there to help fill out the world of your book. They may not be necessarily important or prominent in your book, but they are there to help build up the world of your story and to help add little aspects to your plot to help things remain interesting. The third question is, who are the villains? Keep in mind that conflict characters can be villains too. This question refers to your main antagonist, but also any other problem characters that may arise during your story. Where is the story set? Consider the location and setting of where the story takes place. When is the story set? Consider the timeline and where exactly in time this takes place, whether it is a current timeline or a timeline set in the future or the past. What is the main goal of the story? Consider what the main goal is of the story, and keep in mind that the main goal of your book will usually be the main goal of the protagonist as well. Why do your characters need to achieve this goal? Usually all of the characters will have some reason why they must achieve the main goal of the story. Why do they want to achieve this goal? What is the underlying desire? Now this is a little bit more complicated, but you also need to consider what the underlying desire is to reach the goal. Usually there will be a need to reach the goal. Yes, they have to reach the goal in some regard, but they also have to want it in some underlying regard. So usually this might be, for example, the main character might want to find all of this riches and success. They need to find the riches in order to save the town. But the underlying desire might be that the main character wants that fame and success and they want to feel popular. That is the underlying desire. So consider with your characters if there is some kind of underlying desire behind them needing to reach their goals. And finally, consider what is the main problem stopping them from achieving their goals. The main problem is usually caused by the antagonist doing something bad that stops your characters from being able to continue in the story. However, also keep in mind that problems in a story can also be caused internally in the character's own minds. For example, the character might not feel like they are good enough, and that causes a lot of internal conflict that stops them from achieving their goals. If it is a problem or a situation that stops them from achieving their goals, then it can be an antagonist in your story. The template for these questions is also available in the description below, so you're welcome to fill it out to help you to plan your long-running series or any manga series that you would like to create. My third tip is prepare the topics of each volume. Following the basic plot structure, consider what may be in each volume of your series. Now, again, you don't have to fully plan all of this out. You don't have to plan for every little aspect of your story, but just a basic plan will be enough to help you to understand where exactly you want to go with your book. Did you know that the volumes of your book will actually follow the same plot structure as the bigger plot structure? It's actually true. If you follow the basic plot structure, it is actually the same. If you look at every kind of manga, you will notice that they all follow this similar basic plot structure in any kind of story or genre. It just focuses on it in a smaller scale, with the resolution being a bit more open-ended to help it lead to the next volume. I recommend not only using the plot structure for the entire series that you want to tell, but also for every little volume, because in this way you can help to understand what you want to do in each volume a lot more effectively. Here are some further tips that you should really keep in mind when creating the volumes in your long-running series. Keep each volume entertaining on its own and give it its own story. You want to ensure that when your audience is reading your volumes, they don't feel like things are dragging on forever or each volume seems similar to the last. So always try and put something very unique in each of your volumes, something that can be enjoyed even if a reader were just picking up that single volume on its own and had never read your story before. There should still be something that they can enjoy from that one volume. Also keep in mind that each volume should progress the story in some way. You should never have pointless volumes or pointless scenes. Every scene should make sense in the world of your book. My fourth tip for writing a long-running manga series is consider the story arcs. Arcs are there to help a long-running series be more easily digestible, especially if it is something super long. A story arc should also follow the similar story structure mentioned in tip 1. However, keep in mind that a story arc can go over multiple volumes. One Piece is very good to look at if you need examples of different kinds of story arcs you might want to include in your book. The purpose of story arcs are to help readers to easily digest the world of your story and to learn more about different characters you may have, different locations and worlds, different aspects of the plot, and overall help your story to be more exciting in the long run. My fifth tip for writing a long-running series is develop subplots. Subplots are parts of the story that diverge from the main plot. They can usually add to the main plot and help the main plot to be more interesting, but they are usually side stories on their own. They might be used to introduce new characters, develop current characters, introduce new locations, and help characters discover something new. Here are the 5 main types of subplots that you might want to use in your manga series. The first one is romance subplots. These are subplots that can help develop romance between either main characters or other characters in your story. There's knowledge subplots, which focus on your characters finding out or discovering something new. There's problem subplots, which focus on your character finding a problem that must be resolved before they can proceed with the main plot of the story. There's external conflict subplots, which focus on a battle or a war that is really important in the outside world of the story. And finally, there are internal conflict subplots, which focus on a conflict or a problem inside your character's mind. For example, they're not feeling like they're good enough, or them feeling self-conscious, which can all cause different problems. And the internal conflict subplot focuses on your characters working to overcome these internal conflicts that they have. If parts of the story really need to be revealed before proceeding further, then subplots can help you to do that. The sixth tip is create a strong problem that drives the story. One of the most important aspects to creating a long-running series is creating a problem that can really force your characters to go further in pursuing their goals. The problem is there to help force your characters into motion and make them understand how important this goal is to be solved. So when developing the problem, one of the most important things to think about is what could happen if your character fails? What is the loss? For some popular examples, it might cause the death of someone important to them. It could literally be the end of the world. It could cause the restoration of a really bad villain or a bad location. So in order to create a really good long-running series, you also need to create a really good problem that will help to drive the story for so many volumes. Also keep in mind that throughout the story, smaller problems can also be developed too. And these smaller problems will help to give your characters the necessary training and development they need in order to solve this final big problem at the climax of your story. My seventh tip is know how you will end it in advance. While you don't have to know exactly how you will end it, having a basic idea of how you intend to end your story is going to really help you in writing it, and it will help you to avoid running into plot holes. I've seen it many times where there might be some really successful manga series out there, and unfortunately, due to deadlines and everything, the creator might rush the story, and sometimes this can cause unexpected endings or endings that the readers may not really want to see. And this might be because the author didn't fully have the chance to plan and prepare for that type of ending. So I want you to be able to avoid that problem when you're creating your own story. And in order to avoid this, you need to effectively plan and prepare for what kind of ending you might want to have. At least keep it in mind as you are writing your story so you know what you are leading up to, and you can avoid having rushed or unexpected endings that may shock or upset your audience in some regards. My 8th tip is design plenty of characters but don't introduce them all at once. What I recommend for a longer series is beyond creating characters just for your main cast, also consider what kind of characters you might want to show in each arc of your story. This is one of the best things about creating a longer running series. It gives you a lot of opportunity to introduce a lot of different characters. But the key here is to not introduce them all at once, because if you just show your readers all of these characters right at the beginning, your readers might be really confused. But if you develop all of these characters and introduce them slowly over different arcs and chapters and reveal this larger cast of characters, it will give your audience time to understand them and to really love your characters. And in doing this, it can also help to shape the world of your book more and to create this world that your readers will really want to fall in love with. My 9th tip is put a focus on your main characters. What I truly recommend you do is you give them multiple growth stages over the course of your book. 7 growth stages is a good amount for longer series, however you can add more or less depending on the kind of manga you have. There are some character development stages that you might want to show your characters experiencing over the course of your series. The growth stage 1 is your character at the very beginning. They might be a little bit naive and they might have a lot of things they need to learn. Growth stage 2 of a character is when they begin practicing and training and they may learn some new things. They are not fully developed as characters yet, but they are learning how to grow more as characters. Their basic skills will be revealed here, but they may only be able to use them on a very basic level. The third growth stage is your character may learn something or understand something that helps them to grow a little bit more mentally. They become mentally stronger in this character development stage. The fourth growth stage of this character development is that your character may try to defeat a bad enemy and fail, and this causes them to go through a stage of reflection so that they can learn more about themselves. The fifth growth stage is that your character goes through some serious training in order to develop their abilities, far more serious training than they have ever gone through before. The sixth growth stage is that your character must defeat the enemy with their newfound abilities and strengths. Once they defeat the enemy, they go through a lot of physical and mental development where they really grow as characters and develop into someone new. And the seventh growth stage is your character at the end, after they have experienced all of the development that you have put into your book. They come out a much more greater character, a much more developed character, and they are a lot more mature than they were in the past. These growth stages shouldn't be something sudden in your story. These are different stages that your characters should go through as they are experiencing the world of your book and developing over the course of your story. My 10th tip is consider the point of view. You may think that point of view cannot be shown in manga, however this is not the case. There are many different points of views that you might choose to include in your manga, such as first person omniscient, and third person limited, just for an example. When writing a longer running series, the best points of views to use are third person limited, third person omniscient, and third person multiple. Other points of views can be used, of course, but this may make things a little bit more difficult. Third person limited focuses on only one character and tells the story from their perspective. As an example of third person limited, Harry Potter is told in this perspective. While a narrator is detailing the story, it never focuses on a character outside of Harry Potter. Third person omniscient focuses on what every character is thinking or feeling at a particular point in the story. The narrator is basically an invisible person that is detailing about the lives of every character in your story, and this can help in a longer running series because it allows you to show lots of different characters and their own thoughts and experiences in the world of your book, whether it's an antagonist or a side character or a main character. And finally, third-person multiple focuses on a set amount of characters that you might show the perspective of during the story. For example, there might be 5 main characters and you switch perspectives and show what these characters are going through different points in your story. And you only focus on that number of characters. My 11th tip is create a world that can be revealed throughout the story. Longer running series work better with larger worlds, so in order to create an effective longer series, you may need to write down a set of locations or different places that your characters may go throughout the story in order for them to go through development and to help your readers to remain interested in your story. In every location, also try to provide a purpose for that location and have your characters discover or learn something new in all of these different places. The 12th tip is probably plan and schedule your time. Longer running series are a really big commitment, so you want to make sure that you successfully plan and prepare your time in order to make sure that you don't get burnt out really quickly or tired, because this does take a lot of dedication and it wouldn't be very good if you worked really hard for a short amount of time and then just felt completely burnt out. So it's really important that you schedule your time properly and maybe even consider working in a team or with a small group of people in order to bring this project to fulfillment. In order to effectively schedule for a longer series, consider what moments you have that you could work on a manga and allow those times to be exclusively for manga creating. Really schedule your time and consider what time you do have to work on this and what time you should leave for taking breaks or doing other things, because you don't want to get overwhelmed, and having a proper schedule will help you to avoid the burnout and have more fun creating your project. There is a free downloadable schedule in the description below, which you are welcome to use for the planning of your manga. My 13th tip is edit and organize your book. Editing and organizing your book is very important. I recommend you cut down any scenes that might not make sense, remove any lines of dialogue that may slow down or create weird pacing, and also consider what characters might really not serve the purpose of your book. Do not be afraid to edit or cut out certain parts of your book, because that can help to improve the readability of it and to help your readers enjoy your book a lot more. If you feel stuck on this, it might even help if you work with a professional editor to help you to edit and break down the world of your story. Finally, my 14th tip is do not squeeze the story. By this, I mean don't squeeze out any more information than what you have. If you find that your story doesn't really have any more information that can be provided, then do not squeeze out any more information. Only put as many volumes as need be. Do not break down the story into a longer amount of volumes by breaking up the plot, and don't try and squeeze it into a smaller number either. Allow yourself to have as many or as little volumes as you need to tell the story as you would like it. Thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of long-running manga series you're creating, because I'd really love to hear about them. Feel free to chat with me on any of my social media at @MeIceCross, because I always enjoy hearing from you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!